Today, I just want to talk to you about how we punish ourselves. And so, I want to encourage you, if you are somebody who is beating yourself up, if you're punishing yourself for something that happened a long time ago or just something recently, just sit down. And I like to take it to a journal page and write out what is happening in my life. And it's typically things that we often don't even think about. But if you just sit down and write down 10 to 20 pivotal moments in your life, things that have happened in your life that really have shaking you to your core, things that really have changed who you are, things that really upset you, frustrated you, that you were happy about, that you were excited about, just turning points, things that happen, these moments in your life that you didn't expect to happen, or maybe you did, but things often that we don't expect. This pain sometimes that we encounter will shake us to our core. So when you think about pain in your life, things that have happened in your life that really hurt you, that really disappointed you, just write those things down, one per page, just something that has happened to you, something that hurts you. Think about just writing down what happened. How do you feel about it? How do you feel? What's going on? Just sometimes we need to just write down. We need to sit and think about what happened to us and how we feel about it, and what do we need to do to move forward. Like, what's the next step to moving forward? And then if we don't do anything about it, if we don't at least get down on paper, and even talking to a professional, if that's what you need, we need to think about exactly what happened. We need to get down on paper. Is it that we're upset with somebody? Were we expecting an apology? Are we just disappointed? What was the expectation that we had of this event? Or did it just take us, by surprise? And more importantly, what did you learn from this event? And so I believe that the pains, the disappointments, the frustrations, these things come to teach us a lesson. And if we don't learn the lesson when these events happen, these traumatic events happen, they happen again. So we've got to learn the lesson. We've got to figure out, okay, how can I apply this next time? Or what do I need to do? What changes do I need to make? How do I improve my life? And so when we start looking at these pivotal events that have happened in our life, and we really kind of untangle them, or just on a piece of paper, just break them apart and figure out what happened. And then how can we move forward? Do we need to forgive somebody? Do we just need to let it go? And then, or process how we feel. Is it anger? Is it overwhelm? Is it frustration? And so when we start to really look at, and so oftentimes we bury these things, these traumatic events that happen in our life. We don't want to deal with them because we don't want to deal with the pain, the hurt, the disappointment. We have these expectations of people that we were expecting them to do one thing, but they did something else. And I know it is tough. I know it's hard, but you cannot spend your whole life in a rut, worried about or letting something control your life that happened a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, or 15 years ago. You've got to sit down and figure out how you feel. So I believe in talking to a professional. I think they have, God has gifted us with therapists that really are effective in what they do. But I believe that a lot of the work is your own to do. And so if you don't sit down and figure out what happened and how you feel about what happened, and really figure out deeply, what are the emotions that you feel, you won't be able to be effective when you go to therapy, or you will, but it'll take more time. So you want to know what happened and how do you feel about it. And when you figure out what happened and how you feel about it, it's at some point you've got to let it go. At some point you got to move forward. At some point you got to realize that people are imperfect, that all of us are imperfect, that just like somebody hurt you or disappointed you in an event, you do the same thing to other people. So we have to learn how to let things go. And so for me, for a long time, I have decided that I am just like Oprah Winfrey on the episode where she gave away these cars. And what I feel is, you're forgiven, you're forgiven, you're forgiven. Because I believe that The worst thing that we can do is punish ourselves. And what it doesn't benefit us at all by harboring unforgiveness, by harboring things that happen, ruminating over things that happen over and over again. We have to figure out how to put it down on paper. And maybe we have to sit with it for a week or 2 weeks, or maybe it'll just be a few hours. But we've got to figure out what happened and how we feel about what happened, and then how to move forward. Because if we don't, we punish ourselves. We do these self-defeating behaviors. We sabotage all the things that we worked hard for, that we really want. And so we have to figure out, okay, what happened? How do I feel about it? And then we have to forgive ourselves, and we have to forgive somebody else if we have unforgiveness for somebody else. But we have to stop punishing ourselves. So for me, I believe that people who constantly hurt themselves in whatever way it is, we're punishing ourselves for something that happened before, or we're punishing ourselves because we don't think that we deserve anything better. And so we all make mistakes. So it's just, to me, routinely that we forgive other people, just like we want people to forgive us. We have to forgive ourselves and show ourselves some compassion. We're going to make mistakes. We can't be perfect. None of us can be perfect. So we're making mistakes constantly. But what we have to stop doing is punishing ourselves. We have to stop doing these the self-defeating behaviors, this self-hatred towards ourselves. We have to stop doing that. And we have to learn how to just let it go. Once we figure out what happened, we have to learn how to let it go. We have to learn how to stop thinking about it over and over again. We have to say, okay, I forgive myself for this event. I forgive this other person or persons for this event. And then I'm going to move on. And so what happens is we say we're going to let it go. We say the person's forgiven, but we keep thinking about it over and over again, punishing ourselves, putting us in this downward spiral. So I'm inviting you today to stop and just write it all out on paper, exactly how you feel. If you need professional help, I advise you to get professional help. But I also advise you to think about what you're thinking about. And when you find yourself in these negative spirals, I would just write it all down on a piece of paper. What is happening in your thinking? What are you thinking about? Like, write it down on a piece of paper. How do you feel when you have these triggers and you get angry or sad or depressed or have this anxiety? Write it down on a piece of paper and figure out what's happening, what's triggering you. And then be willing to forgive people. Be willing to let it go, because it's your life that's affected. And I tell people all the time, you think that you're hurting somebody else by not forgiving them. But when you don't forgive other people, you're only hurting yourself. And if you don't believe me, you can just periodically just start looking at your life. You could just go back 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 months, and you can see how you have not forgiven somebody else has only hurt you. It's kept you stuck. It's kept you where you haven't been able to achieve the things that you want to achieve. So I'm inviting you today to stop punishing yourself, to let it go. I believe in writing it out on a piece of paper. I believe in seeking, therapy. I believe in praying to God that He will help me to forgive the people that need to be forgiven, and to forgive myself for what I've done. Because some of this stuff is our own fault and we blame other people. But I believe in forgiving myself, and I'm asking God to help me. So I'm praying to God, and I'm very cognizant of what I'm listening to, what I'm watching, what am I putting inside of my thoughts, my thinking, what I'm putting before my head, what I'm in my eyes, what I'm putting before my hearing, because this will keep you in a downward spiral too, listening to things that don't benefit you at all. So just think about that today. Stop punishing yourself. I want you to stop punishing yourself. Stop doing things that you know are not good for you.